Them what I ask almost every group I speak to. I'll ask you, I know the answer. How many of you think the American healthcare system is working? Raise your hand. Don't see anybody. And that's the response I get. Every place, every part of the country, conservative, progressive, whatever it is a broken system. The only way it is working is because, not the only way, it's designed to work to make billions for the insurance companies and the drug companies. That works. But it is a disaster for patients all over this country. All right. So what you got is a system where not only, I want everybody to hear this. You know, people say, well, you know what we need to do is put more money into healthcare because people are uninsured. You don't need to put more money into healthcare. Let me break the bad news to you. You are already spending twice as much on average as the people of any other country on earth. And the wealthiest, all of these countries, whether it's Canada, Europe, somehow manage spending half as much per capita, some cases less, to guarantee healthcare to all of their people. All right? Why is that? Because they have national healthcare systems whose goal, some of them are better, some of them are worse, but the goal is to provide quality care to all people. Our goal is to make huge profits for the insurance companies and the drug companies. Now, clearly, to my mind, what we have got to do is move to what we call a Medicare for all single-payer program. Let me tell you, you can turn on the TV and you'll see, oh, Bernie Sanders, it's a far left idea. Yeah, that's why every other major country on the earth has it, to one degree or another. All right, and that's right, and developing countries, that's quite right. Developing countries understand that healthcare must be considered a human right. So here's what we do in the proposal that I have offered, which has, I think, over 100 sponsors in the House, and we've got, I think, 18 in the Senate. What it does, listen to what it does, a 4-year transition program, it's not overnight. First year lowers the eligibility age of Medicare from 65 to 55. Second of all, it does away with all co-payments and out-of-pocket expenses. Thirdly, it understands that dental, vision, and hearing are healthcare. It includes dental, hearing, and vision. All right? Fourthly, in the first year, it includes all of the children in America in the program. And then in the second year, it goes from 55 to 45, then the next year, 45 to 35, and the next year, everybody is in. That's it. Now, the goal here is to try to figure out why it is that we end up spending so much money. And the answer has everything to do not only with the profiteering of the insurance companies and the drug companies, but they're creating an incredible administrative bureaucracy, which is ultimately always designed to make them more money. So for example, if you gotta get on the phone and be on the phone for 3 hours listening to a tape recorder or something, that is designed so that you don't follow up and you don't get the benefits that you paid for. It is designed to discourage you to get, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, on top of all of that stuff, in the richest country in the history of the world, we don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough dentists. We don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough psychologists. Totally insane. All right? So we're working on those things. But at the end of the day, it's not complicated. Either we believe that healthcare is a human right available to all people, or we don't. Most people in Vermont, and by the way, when I mentioned earlier how sentiment is changing in this country, just the poll came out last week. 64% of the American people now believe in Medicare for all. Okay? 80-90% of people who are Democratic believe in it. A lot of Republicans in this vote. All right. Oh, I see a woman way in the back there. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Lisa and I live in Cavendish. I'm a Canadian turned American. And what I can't
Welcome.
figure out is
Yeah.
where's the outrage?
Really?
Where's the outrage on ICE? Going in,
Yeah.
getting little 65-year-old Mexican ladies, pulling them out, no due process. These ICE camps are something that's in a monster movie. And everyone, all the Americans go on like life is usual.
No, I don't agree with you. What ICE is doing.
But why aren't we out marching? Why aren't we outside the White House banging it
We are.
down? You know?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
You know, the Trumpsters did that. You know, and we're just accepting it all.
I don't agree with you. I happen to have been in St. Paul, Minnesota for a No Kings rally, where there were 150,000 people out. And the people of Minnesota fought back very bravely. 2 people there were killed, as you know.
Yes, I know.
So I don't accept the fact that the American people have sat back on us. Look, what political tactics are, you can talk about this or that, and people can disagree what is the best way forward. But what some of us are trying to do is to organize at the grassroots level, bring people into the political process. And one of the things that we have seen doesn't get quite that much attention, whether you look at Mamdani in New York, whether you look at the elections in Michigan or Minnesota, voter turnout has been off the roots, off the charts. You know why? Because a lot of young people are now beginning to get involved in the political process. And I think if we get young people involved in a progressive agenda, which means the defunding of ICE, and stopping them from doing the things that they are doing, I think we turn the country around. Okay, other questions? Yeah, stand up, please.
Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. I'm Susan Healy, and I'm wondering about the problems within the Democratic Party. And I'm wondering what you're thinking about the impact of this third way might be. We're talking about getting the message out, and we see by the numbers that people really do believe in democratic socialism and social New Deal style welfare social programs. So how do you have people within this party that are trying to destroy that message and create a new Red Scare, and they're Democrats?
Well, this is an issue I spend 7 days a week, 24 hours a day dealing with. Look, it is no secret, I mean, the Republican Party has its issues, and the Democratic Party has its issues. And by the way, as all of you I think know, let me thank all of you for helping elect me as the longest serving independent in the history of the United States. But, you know, I work within the Democratic caucus in the Senate around the country. The division is not complicated. All right, let me explain what the division is and what each side is trying to do here. In the last, without giving you a 10-hour speech here, there was once a time, maybe under FDR, under Harry Truman, maybe even under Kennedy, where the Democratic Party was considered to be the party of the working class. So if you go up on the street and you stop somebody and say, which party is the working class? Oh, it's the Democratic Party. Everybody knew it wasn't, that was the case. But over the years, because of the corruption of money, Democrats said, hey, Republicans are getting all this money from corporate interests. Why don't we do that? And in the 70s, that started, et cetera, et cetera. The Democratic Party kind of turned its back on working families. Now, what it did do, which is not insignificant, in fact, very important, it fought for women's rights, it fought for gay rights, it fought for civil rights, among other things. And there were major, major victories won. I mean, all of us, when we were kids, remember the state of civil rights in America, black Americans, remember? Segregation, et cetera. Well, we've come a long way. And Democrats deserve can take some of the responsibility for making those changes. But on the economic issues, Democrats have not done a good job. And a lot of white working class people especially said, hey, thank you, but no thank you. We're gonna vote Republican for whatever reason. Okay, so that's the overall situation. Here's what the split is. In recent years, Democratic billionaires and big money interests put money into the Democratic Party. So there will be a meeting like this, without maybe not any more people, except the difference is all of them will be multimillionaires. And the ask is, okay, I need $100,000 from you, and $50,000 from you, and $20,000 from you. And by the way, who do you think should be the candidate for Senate from Minnesota? And who do you think should be the candidate from Maine, or from Michigan, or from Vermont, or whatever it may be? You guys decided, and we will make that happen. You got it? So you got a top-down party where people on the top determined who the candidates would be and what the agenda would be. I mean, just as an example, last week the leader of the Democratic Party in the House, when asked, do you support Medicare for all, said, no, I do not support Medicare for all. 80 to 90% of Democrats support Medicare for all. Now, why is that? It has everything to do with money, okay, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so the division is the traditional, what we call establishment Democrats, dependent on money, run their campaigns by hiring consultants and putting a lot of 30-second ads on the air. That's their campaign. We do it very differently. We don't have anywhere near the money that they have. So we have a different process by which candidates organically come up. It's not that anybody selects them. They come up. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was a bartender, or waitress, barista in New York. She decided to run. Mamdani was a state assemblyman. He worked on my campaign in 2016. So people come from the ranks and they run for office. Usually they get heavily outspent. But what they do, and what you saw in Florida in an unbelievable way, is put together strong grassroots people where you got, in New York City as an example, Mamdani had 100,000 people out on the streets to help him win his election. Okay? So the difference is that establishment Democrats have no grassroots support, virtually none. They have a lot of money. We have no money, but we have grassroots support. And of late, the grassroots support is what's winning the election. But you can't get grassroots support unless you have an agenda that excites people. All right, you can't say go out on the streets so we can give tax breaks to the rich. That's not going to work. So when you talk about healthcare as a human right, when you talk about changing our foreign policy, when you talk about raising the minimum wage to a living wage, $20 an hour or more, when you talk about creating millions of jobs, dealing with climate change, when you talk about taxing billionaires, people say, you know what? That's an agenda for me to get involved with and to work for. So you need the agenda to get the grassroots people. You need the grassroots people to win an elections. That is the difference between the two parts of the Democratic Party.
Thank you.
All right. Gentleman right there, straight ahead.
Hi, my name is Jeff Hutchins. I'm from Vernon.
Okay.
And my concern is, well, first of all, I got an answer to all these solutions there. Let's get rid of Trump. According to my Constitution book, all we need is 2 witnesses to get him out of there. And I don't know why this hasn't happened. Can you explain this to me?
This is more complicated. I wish it was. But look, what we are doing right now and what this 2026 elections is all about, it's not only about healthcare and the economy and AI and all that stuff. It really is taking on Trumpism and his authoritarianism and his efforts to undermine democracy. And, again, as I mentioned, there's a big struggle within the Democratic Party, but there is widespread agreement that we've got to take Trump on and maintain democracy and deal with his disregard for the Constitution and the rule of law. Okay, gentleman over there.
Eric Saunders, Guilford. Bernie, following up on what you just said, how do we get people in positions of power like Jeffries just come out against Medicare for all? How do we get people like Ocasio-Cortez and say Ossoff who are willing to speak out? How do we get them in positions of
All
power?
right, but I want you to be, somebody who's done this for many, many years. And again, one of the differences between progressives and establishment Democrats, everybody within the big Democratic tent contests Trump. There is no debate about that. And in varying ways, different approaches, we want to stop Trump. Conservative Democrats believe that, I believe that. But the difference between, I can give you a speech for an hour telling you how terrible Trump is. You go, oh my God, it's great. But what am I? It's not enough. It's not enough. You can talk about Trump till the cows come home, but you need an agenda that speaks to the needs of ordinary people. So if I tell you how terrible Trump is, but we can't change the healthcare system. Oh no, we can't ask the rich to pay their fair share of taxes because they make campaign contributions. You can't do that. We can't really raise the minimum wage, because a lot of business people will be upset at us. So I want you, when you think about it, is to differentiate. You can hear very smart guys. I know them all. And they're very smart, and they know how to attack Trump in ways that people say, oh, that's right. But then the next question you have to ask them is, all right, thanks. Your comments on Trump are right. What do you propose to deal with the healthcare crisis? What do you propose to do about AI? Are you prepared to take on the big tech oligarchs? Well, can't quite do that. So if you listen carefully, give you an example. Trump is, we know what Trump is, but he's not stupid, and he is a good politician. He has a sense of where people are. 4 months ago, Trump comes out and says, about this AI stuff, he's pro-AI all the way, doesn't want any regulation. He says, it's really not fair for people in a given community to see their electric rates go up. So I, Donald Trump, am going to do what I can to protect you from paying higher electric rates. That's what half the Democrats believe right now. They haven't gone any further than Trump on that issue. So my point is, it's one thing to be anti-Trump, and there's a united opposition there, but you need an agenda that speaks to the suffering of working families all over this country. Right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
You.
Thank you, Senator, for being here. My greatest concern right now is the midterm elections in November, and the threat of having police or whoever come in and trying to make it very difficult for people to vote.
Yep.
Do you have any suggestions or advice for all of us?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we just put something up on our social media an hour ago on that issue, based on a very good article in the New York Times today about that. And the Times just discussed on issue after issue Trump's effort to try to weaken democracy. And they started off by saying the essence of authoritarianism is if you have a political party that refuses to cede power when they lose. And in many ways, that's what Trump is trying to do. Now, I think, so to answer your question, we are more than aware of that. And there are people who are meeting every day. But figuring out varieties of ways through legal action, through grassroots action. Your concerns about having, say, agents, federal agents or ICE people surrounding a polling place to discourage people from voting. And Trump's his obsession with the fact that he won the 2020 election, means that he doesn't want to accept election results. The fear is that if in a close election, some Democrat wins by 200 votes, are they going to announce that thousands of undocumented people voted in that? Those are the fears. They're legitimate, but we are very mindful of them, and we are working on it. Right here, ma'am.
So, when we're talking about solutions, are you gonna go down to your Senate and talk to Chuck Schumer in November when we get really good results and just say maybe his time has passed? Can you do that for the rest of us? Because we're not gonna listen if he is the man. Still.
I think it's fair to say that all over this country there are a lot of people who share your views. Let me not go further than that at this moment, okay? Yeah, ma'am. Yep. I always get nervous when people read from a paper, all right?
Just had heart surgery, so I need every bit to remember things.
Okay.
So, last time you were here, Bernie, you mentioned there was a $2 million grant for a single-payer pilot program for Windham County. And I had emailed your office because I was very curious, but I haven't heard anything
Okay,
yet.
well, I mentioned a moment, it wasn't a single payer program. What it was is expanding community health centers down here. Okay, and what we're gonna see is and we have run into problems. Memorial was going to be an important part of it, we've had problems there. But I think as as soon as I leave here, I'm gonna meet with some nurses at Memorial actually, and then I'm gonna go up to the dental program. But I think you're gonna see the dental program here in town fused with community health center, which will be good. But we are still working on that. So it's not a single payer program. What it is, I've helped lead the effort in Congress to expand community health centers all over this country. And Vermont, per capita, is maybe the leader in America right now, people who use it. And as I said, we have not been strong down here in Windham County. So we are still working, believe me, if you know how much time my office has spent on that, you'd be
How
surprised.
about Grace County Hospital?
We're working, we're doing our best on that one. All right, maybe a couple more questions. Our gentleman right here. Got a mic there coming in.
Hi, my name is John Bronstein. I'm from Putney, Vermont. And as an aside, a couple of years ago, I won the Bernie Sanders lookalike contest.
John, I got some speeches for you to give around the country.
And living in Vermont, I'm very happy that I don't look like Donald Trump. And I want to applaud you for a consistent message and having a spine, which is so rare. That being said, you mentioned that it's important to have an agenda that appeals to people. And I'm very concerned about that because I looked at the website for the Democratic Socialists of America and I showed it to my wife and she said, "Is this real?" And I thought, yeah, is this real? And I had to look it up using artificial intelligence. And it is real. And here, I agree with a number of things in that website. But here are some of the things that really bother me, because I'm worried that the general populace will not agree with this. Fully abolish the police and prison system. Come on.
All right.
Defund the Department of War. I don't like the words Department of War, but are we really going to defund our defense department?
Let me show you. I do know exactly where you're coming from. My wife tells me this every single day. All right, look. There are many organizations that have platforms and they say certain things. The point you're making is a very good point. I happen not to believe, never have believed, to defund the police. All right, we want to wipe out racism within police departments. We want to make police departments as effective as they can be. Reforms may mean our police particularly well trained to deal with a drug overdose, not necessarily, et cetera, et cetera. But I deal with cops all over the country. You got a lot of these guys working day and night doing very difficult jobs. So nobody that I know, nobody that I support calls for defunding the police. Now, when you understand, and you're right, is that what Fox News and the right wing will do is say, this is what they believe, open borders. They want everybody from China and from Mexico to come into America. That's what they believe. They want to do away with Thanksgiving. That would be terrible. It's my favorite holiday, you know? Right, so you're right. But then you got to understand, they are an organization, they have different chapters and this, that, and the other thing, and some people believe that, all right? I happen not to. Most people happen not to. They will be pushed on television day and night for the reasons that you give. So that your wife will say, wow, I can't support that. But understand, there's no candidate that I support who believes that stuff, all right? So they're entitled to their views. There are a lot of good stuff that they do. They're doing a lot of good grassroots organizing, very strong in economics. And I'm not sure that even that's a majority opinion within DSA. So but your point is a very good point. That's what will be used against Democratic candidates. All right, ma'am in the back there, yeah.
Thank you, Senator. My name is Linda. I live in Marlboro. I'm a retired NASA engineer. And my question to you today is, what can each and every one of us in this room here today do to help fix some of these problems?
That's a great question. We need some good engineers to help us. I think we have got to be involved. You know, people fought and died to protect democracy, and I'm a big believer. I love democracy. I love the idea that people can disagree, we learn from each other, we have good debates, get out and vote. I think right now, given the crises that we face, I would ask people, and I'm proud, by the way, of your delegation. It's not just me. Peter Welch is doing a great job. Becca Balance doing a great job. But you have friends in other states, and sometimes candidates in other states need help. And I'll tell you something else, though. You know, we've been talking about national issues, and I'm a United States Senator, and that's what I do. But if you think the state of Vermont does not have terrible problems, you would be mistaken. Right? Now, given the fact of where we are, you know, I'm working on a national Medicare for all. What do we do to improve health care in the state of Vermont? There are tests out there that suggest that our kids' reading levels are in decline. What do we do about improving education in the state of Vermont? What do we do? I was just up in Franklin County yesterday. Family farmers gone out of business. It is, you know, and our rural economy is in deep trouble. How do you grow?
Support it.
And I had a wonderful meeting with a young couple. I guess they're late 20s. They're now growing chickens in a regenerative way. It's a beautiful thing to see young people going back to the land, in a sense, to do good kinds of agriculture. But how do we get young people to get involved in agriculture? How do we get young people to be good teachers, childcare workers, childcare disaster in Vermont? So I would say, you know, we want to pay attention nationally, but we are a small state. We're all of 630,000 people. Can we become a model example of what good education is about, good childcare is about, good healthcare is about? We can work on that, and I think, you know, we need to be involved in that. All right, maybe one last question, way in the back, woman in the back there.
Bernie, so many of us in this room, my name is Nancy Romer, I'm very happy to be here. So many of us in this room have seen you as a beacon politically over the years and appreciate you so much. You've parted the waters for a progressive future for young people. But it would be great, I mean, I actually attended something that you and Mom Donnie spoke at, and it was just electric. Could you borrow him for a couple of days and do a tour of the Vermont colleges and get those young people to see that they can have a vision for the future in Vermont, and that they should register to vote and get out and vote? They will make a big difference, and I think you can. It is a small state, so a small sector of the population that gets engaged can make a big difference. But I've seen so many people electrified and energized by your work. I just want to say thank you so much.
Ron has been very smart. He almost never leaves New York City. He's on vacation this week in upstate New York. I think that's in his picture. But I'd love to bring him here to Vermont.
Great idea.
He is an exceptional, he's a really smart guy. He's indefatigable. I don't know how, I guess when you're 36 you can do that, but the guy doesn't stop 7 days a week. My only disappointment with him is he stole my communications director. A woman who's done a great job for him. But I think, again, let me end on a positive note. And that is sometimes the media, for its own reasons, chooses not to pick up on it. But what you've seen in the last year with Mamdani and others are wonderful people. I mean, Justin, I know them all. These are often young people, very often women, sometimes people of color. People who are fighting for exactly the right vision for where America should go. And they're taking on all of the moneyed interests, they're taking on the media, they're taking on super PACs, taking on the establishment, and they are winning. So I think the good news is that the American people are catching on to the reality that in the richest country in the history of the world, we should not have the highest rate of childhood poverty. 1 out of 3 seniors should not be struggling economically. Kids should be able to go to college regardless of their income. We should be leading the world in tackling climate change, not working with the fossil fuel industry. We should not be fomenting the kind of racism we're seeing right now. The new racism, as you know, is anti-Muslim. And when people are intellectually bankrupt, all they can do is get into racism and attack whoever they want to attack. Our people are catching on. And that's the result of a lot of people over a lot of years, including people in this room. So we got a lot of work in front of us, but let me leave you with an optimistic message. Our vision is now the vision, I think, of the majority of the people in this country. Status quo ain't working. People want real change. Thank you very much.